Minute is to miss a lot. Thanks so much. Thanks for calling. And let's face it, you've got friends on Facebook. And I'll tell you what, I kind of wanted to talk today about some of the things that everybody seems to be experiencing in their lives along with this pandemic. It's Justine Thomas. Thank you so much for joining into Let's Talk with Justine Thomas. I've got Joe in the studio. It's so nice to have you in the studio, Joe.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And I think what I want to touch upon today, and everybody has seen all of this going on. Have you seen Adele lately?
No.
You have not seen Adele?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Tell me about it.
She's like a size 0.
Really?
Adele used to be like this, really, when she first came out, she was huge. She had, what, two kids, maybe one kid now, but she has slimmed down to like a size 0.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. But how did she do it? I'm debunking this today.
Okay, let's do it.
So you go and you see Adele is on with Ellen and she's talking about how she slimmed down on this diet. Well, now you click onto the article a little bit more and then there's these pills. There's no wonder pill that's going to make you lose weight. There's no wonder pill. Nope. You just went through a fast session.
I did.
And it was killer.
This was a bad one, yeah. It's not a great experience.
Have you rebounded from it yet?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And, when you put your body through a shock like that, I mean, you do it on purpose so that, because our bodies are amazing at being able to, no matter what we throw at it, it feels a way to it figures out a way to keep us alive.
Right.
And so when you shock it, you create some sensitivities that weren't there before. So if you get right back in your old bad habits, then you've really not made yourself better. Because literally, when you start back after a fast, you can add whatever nutrition you feel like because your body's not craving anything, your hunger's different, everything's different. So if you decide to jump back into it, then why suffer at all in the first place?
I think when you do a fast, like I know when we were younger and we wanted to drop that weight, say for wrestling or for whatever the case may be, we were able as kids and as younger, in our 20s to drop it like 2, 3, 5 pounds within 2-3 days. Now it's harder. Metabolisms have slowed down. So I think a fast helps to jumpstart that metabolism.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. And when we were kids, we created HGH, right? So our bodies healed a lot faster. If we get hurt, a scrape would be, scabbed over and repaired by the next week. And, and now it takes a little bit longer to do that. But just because your body slows down in the growth, you can use a fast to then get HGH kicking in there again. One of my favorite deals, and let me kind of connect the dots here.
Okay.
So leading into a fast, I will do like a 10-day upping my supplements, getting nutrition going, and really getting my immune system boosted like it's nobody's business. Because basically when you do a fast, you put yourself in a state that if you're going to get sick, your body's weakened during a fast and you're going to get sick, a lot easier. Well, when I'm doing a fast, my body goes into a process called autophagy. And what it does is it kills off white blood cells, right? It all kind of weakened anomaly cells are killed off, right? And it's going to recreate those cells. But think about it this way. If you've had any, cancer is basically a cell that doesn't die.
Right.
So you have this cell floating around in your body. It's weakened. It's all defunct and it won't die. It doesn't have the code anymore to get rid of it. So it's a zombie cell going around and it creates more zombie cells. But if you put yourself through autophagy, it targets those zombie cells and wipes them out. So I might be saving myself from cancer sometime in the future. And so if you can ramp up your health going into a fast, then you're going to kill off a bunch of white blood cells and those anomaly cells. And then on the other side of it, your body has a spike in HGH and you rebuild all of the muscles that are ripped and all of the cells that you just wiped out during the autophagy. So it's pretty an amazing process.
Now, when you're going into a fast, so you have to be careful because I had asked you this last week when I knew you were going through this fasting that you did. And I had mentioned, I said, well, aren't you worried about your blood sugar levels dropping? Aren't you worried about getting dizzy and not being able to see, or you're so hungry that your stomach starts to eat your insides? I mean, how do you control all that?
Well, most of us, the weight problem in the United States is because we have so much sugar in our diets. And what happens is, like I said, the body will compensate and it'll find ways of using such an immense amount of sugar. But what I do is I limit those simple sugars. Like if I'm going to give my body some sugars, I'm going to make it work for it so that it's not like refined to the point where the body just has to sit back and say, hey, here's some ATP, here's some energy, here's some, and then your body gets kind of apathetic. But if you remove those, like I'll get rid of bread and simple sugars right off the get-go. So leading into a fast, I'm not producing a bunch of insulin that's kind of keeping my body. It's slowed down a little bit, so that, like, again, my metabolism ramps up because it's got to work harder to get energy out of the food that I'm putting in it.
And then you're constantly drinking waters. You're constantly flushing out your system.
Yep.
So what happens when you start to feel like, and I think you had a headache the one day.
Oh, yeah.
Or during your span of this fast. I mean, how many days did you do this?
I did 2 this time.
Okay.
I set my sights on, I like at least to go 2 days. And if I'm feeling okay still, I'll go to that 3rd day. Now, the problem is that, if you don't have a lot of fat storage in reserve, where it's super easily accessible to, ketosis to be able to grab it and produce energy, you could start to dehydrate when you're going through this process. Even though you're drinking a ton of water, you're not getting the same amount of electrolytes, which means the cells can't retain any of the water. So you have 2 choices: either load up on salts and electrolytes like crazy, and you can't because you're in a fast.
Right.
So if you get to the point where you're going to get super dehydrated for the sake of being in a fast, it's no longer a healthy proposition. And that's when I'll bail out. And that's why going into it, I'll load up on the electrolytes when I'm in that 10, days of immune system boosting. So I have some in my system, but once it runs out, I'm out.
Now, do you up the vitamins? Do you up all that?
Yep.
Vitamin D's, vitamin C's, B's,
zinc, echinacea.
So your poor wife, she probably has a counter full of vitamins.
She gave me my own basket, right? And it has all of my shit in that basket.
I could see that though, but I think everybody should probably at least once a month do a fast, because it puts your body in line.
Well, see, and I'm a big proponent of intermittent fasting. If you could just do intermittent fasting every day, where you set like a 5 or 6 hour window where you do all of your eating, I don't even really care what you eat in that 5 hour window. But if you can give your body a chance to not have stuff going through the digestive system for a little while, you can use that energy to do cell repair. But think about it. Your body is constantly digesting food, constantly producing energy, no shutdown, no repair, and you can get that system burned out because, I mean, think about it. Think about how much energy you're dedicating to food digestion. And with the weight problem, we don't need the we don't need the food. We don't need the calories.
Plus getting a good night's sleep to help your body shut down a little bit.
Exactly.
So you only get 4 or 5 hours?
I do.
I mean, I have to go like a total of 8, and then I'm like, I'm still so tired. So what is we did a show on this before. Some people can do 4, some people can do 6, some people can do 8. But I think to be safe, on the safe side, if you're fasting and you're going through what you just went through last week, probably a good 6 hours is a safe bet that your body's in repair and restore mode.
Yeah, right. And it goes through a lot of friction when you put it through this. So you need a little bit more sleep after, a fast. I find myself like, I usually wake up at 4:30, right? Today was 6:30. I felt like I slept in forever.
Really? And
right?
it felt good though?
Oh, it did. Yeah. But, and again, if you remove some of the, like, think about the food that we eat as being a speaker on full volume, right? After being in a room with full volume, your body compensates that it doesn't sound like full volume anymore. But you can't hear subtle things because your body is overstimulated. It works the same way. Like, your body will tell you when you're supposed to do something and not doing something. But if you're inundated with stimulus, you can't hear the feedback that your body is giving you. After a fast, you hear everything. You can eat a popcorn kernel and you can feel it and see what your body reacts to it. The same thing goes with sleep. Figuring out what your body actually needs and giving it what it needs. Most people will sleep 8 hours because they can't hear anything their body is saying, and they just end up like throwing the kitchen sink at it.
This is true. Now, the other thing that I think people have to be so very careful for, there's so many different diet plans out there, and they always say consult your doctor before doing anything, especially if you're on medications, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, whatever the case may be. I think it's important that people realize everybody wants to jump on keto. Everybody wants it. I'm doing keto. You see it all over Facebook. You see it all over, the smartphone ads. But you have to be careful when you're doing keto, because you could throw your body into a shock, and you're not really going into ketosis. You could be going into something else. Am I correct on that?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we're really stupid. We really do not know enough about our own bodies. I mean, we have no business discovering Mars if we have everything in front of us to understand how our systems work, because we know the science is there. It's you know. You don't have to become a doctor to know how these systems work.
Right.
But that's why we end up buying the super pill, because we didn't take the time to understand how that works. Like, let me explain to you from a layman's standpoint. And I am a layman. I am not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm a guy who wanted to know how it functioned, right? And then I use what I learned to hack myself to be able to get an outcome that I want, right? And so ketosis is basically starving the body of glucose. And then, because the body still needs to run, it needs energy, it switches to another system that then harvests ketones from body fat. All right. So if you've got body fat, your body has the ability to say, hey, the first thing that happens is your liver is where the most accessible glucose that we have. We eat food, it stores liver glycogen, and when you need energy, it goes to the liver, it wipes out the glycogen, you eat again, it refills the glycogen. Then it has the secondary glycogen store, which is muscle glycogen, right? Okay. So harder for the body to get at, but in case it's been a while since you've eaten and the body needs to go into starvation mode, it could then, while you're, wandering the fields trying to tackle another buffalo, it can start getting the glycogen out of the muscles. But then after that goes away, it's like, all right, what do I do now, right? And so then it can go to that third thing, which is then start using ketones out of body fat. So, but it's all proportional. There's some damage that you can do if you were to go and shock your body when you're not healthy to do this. You can't hack a system that's already hemorrhaging, right? Because you're just going to do more damage. I feel that if you get healthy and you do a healthy diet before you do anything else, then you can transition and use a system that's already functioning. So if your insulin system doesn't work because of diabetes, or you're sick, like, hacking the insulin system is not going to have the same result as mine. You're just going to feel terrible, and you might die.
Right. Right. Now, there's also, have you seen the hard-boiled egg diet?
Tell me about the hard-boiled egg diet.
Well, you're supposed to be able to lose 22 pounds in 14 days. You're supposed to have 2 hard-boiled eggs in the morning and then something citrus fruity. Then, in the afternoon, another 2 hard-boiled eggs and then a salad. Okay. And then at night, 2 hard-boiled eggs, a salad, and a piece of chicken. There's no carbs there. And you're supposed to do this for 14 days
I try to follow people's logic when they suggest these diets. I'm like, what part of the system are you trying to engage by throwing that at it, right? And, you can handle a whole lot of cholesterol when your body's really deep into ketosis, because you've changed the dynamics of the body's chemistry. But I would not suggest anybody eat 19 slices of bacon as a good healthy diet until you know what that does once it goes inside your body. And I think that there's a whole lot of setup. It's almost like, you see somebody lifting a bunch of weights, right? And that they've got 19 years that led them up to that moment before they could pull off that thing that you can't do. If you wandered up there having never done anything and you try lifting that thing, your arms are going to come unattached, and you're going to do real harm,
What about the cabbage soup diet? You've heard about that one.
Here we go.
Make sure you're near a bathroom.
But that doesn't concern me as much as the eggs or the bacon ones or the whipped cream diet or anything like that.
So basically, when you are, and I know you don't work out as much when you're fasting. It's not a good thing, because you're burning and burning and burning. Your body's actually acting as a furnace when you're on a fast, and you're burning up everything in your system, right?
Well, you get to a certain point in some of the fasts where after the 23rd, 24th hour, you get this really spike in energy, bouncing around and dancing and stuff like that. And if I've got pent up energy, I'm going to go expense it. Right. Now, this last time around, I felt like I was walking around on a cloud for the entire time. There wasn't anything in me that said, let's go for a run. So it just depends. Again, I listen to my body, and if it has the extra juice, I'll go out there and, get some work done or do some exercise. But it's not predicated on exercise at all.
Now, this was a totally different reaction from what you normally do.
Yes.
So why do you think? Do you think your body was compromised? You were tired? You had a lot on your plate? Or is it just, was this not a good time to do this?
You know, I think that this year I've taken on so much extra work that I was overly expensed on, you know, normally I'm, you know, it's uber healthy going into the fall, and it's just a formality for me upping my immune system. I think this was the first time, had I not upped my immune system, that I probably would have been susceptible to some kind of, you know, cold or flu by this point, because I was just so taxed.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I was a little spent this year.
There's a lot of people that, I mean, we're coming into winter months and a lot of people's immune systems are down.
Yes.
And then a lot of people worry about getting the COVID and this and that. So they should really start upping their supplements, upping vitamins, upping
and I'm
whatever
honestly,
it is.
in the hierarchy here, I like natural stuff when you can get it. I mean, if you can't be in the sun and you can't get access to vitamin D, then sure, take some drops. But it should not supplant what you can get naturally, because there's a whole lot of other complicated systems that come along with the eating of the food that has the vitamin D, and getting in the sun, you know, that natural process that can't be you know, duplicated by just taking some drops and thinking you're, you know, the same stuff's happening in your stomach.
Now, let me ask you this. If somebody is wanting to go on a diet or wanting to, you know, shed some pounds, do whatever, do you think it's more portion control or what they're eating?
Well, I think figuring out the reason that you've put on extra pounds and knowing what to do depending on how it got there in the first place. If you just hadn't been paying attention, and you know, and I don't know anybody who has extra pounds that's sitting around flicking channels, right? That's just not our lives anymore. We can't do that.
Can't do it.
But if you can figure out, like, is it a health concern first, that you did it because one of your systems aren't happening the way that they are, or if it's just like neglect, where, you know, you're too busy and you end up eating shitty food and, you know, not doing whatever. So that's where you start. You find out what's causing the biggest part of the problem. And I'm thinking, you know, when you compare being unhealthy because you're overweight to everything else, proportionally, I'll take the everything else. So let's just say there's a 1% risk to your health for doing ketosis. And if you do it wrong, you're whatever. But being overweight, there's a 10% risk that you're unhealthy. Well, I'm going to go take the risk that gives me a chance to feel better and combat this a little bit, because now you could be overweight and be unhealthy and get 10 years and you won't even really feel that you're unhealthy. Where ketosis, I'll put you in a 2-month cycle where it's going to put some stresses on your body and you're going to feel like crap. Well, I'm going that direction because I'd rather you have a chance at health than just slowly expire.
So you're all about the ketosis then?
I think it's the quickest and easiest way to give the human mind some progress, because you can do some amazing things. So when you go through ketosis, one of the first things that happens is you drop water, right? So you lose like 4 pounds, but it's not really body fat that you lost, but it feels like you're lighter. It feels like you've got energy because you saw some kind of reaction. And sometimes hacking the body into thinking progress in that first 4 initial pounds is awesome. And if you can use that to get into ketosis, you can lose a ton of weight in the beginning. So I'll tell everybody, you know, get your body super healthy. You know, you're in a point where you just didn't have McDonald's yesterday, that you can't remember the last time that you made a stupid food choice, and then get outside and do some walking and know that you've been active enough to do it. Give yourself a month of trying to get into ketosis, because there was the doctor that lived in my neighborhood, Dr. Shayesta. He was here in the Youngstown area. And really his health plan was basically no cakes, no cookies, no pies, no sugar desserts, and no soda, right? Do anything else, get rid of those things. And for most people, if they just do those 5 things, they will end up in ketosis, because the drastic change from how much sugar they were getting. And if I did bread and pastas and whatever, I'd be out of ketosis. But for most people, just doing those 5 things will get you into ketosis because of the stark difference.
Now, they also say when you're starting on a diet, don't eat anything white. Everything white has sugar in it. True? Not true?
White.
Well, you figure milk.
Like breads?
Milk has...
Milk, tons of sugar. Cheese, tons of sugar. Bread, white bread, tons of sugar. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Pasta, tons of sugar. So if you need general rules, but I don't pick my food out by the color. I don't. Like, I intentionally pick that food out because I know what's in it. And basically, here's a kind of a trick that you could start playing. When you do ketosis, like it sets these rules that you can only eat 50 grams less of carbohydrates. So what you end up doing is if you want a food, you got to read the little label. And then you start saying, oh, I didn't know X had this in it. Right. So you start getting familiar with foods and what they have. Like, I need to go get some potassium, right? What's my favorite food to go with potassium? I'm going to go eat a banana. You start searching out the things that you know you're not getting enough of, vitamin C, vitamin D, and stuff like that. Because honestly, without the supplements, if I don't want to take my vitamin D supplement, what would I have to eat over here to get the same thing that I'm getting in the vitamin D? And by the time you went and searched out the vitamin D, now you don't even need to eat anything because your natural food supplement filled you up, and now you don't need to figure out if you need to eat white foods or whatever.
Now, say people are lessening their portions on there, and you're supposed to, believe it or not, when you start dieting, take a small saucer that you would put a cup on, and they say that is what you should be eating your whole dinner is a small saucer. True or not true?
I've never done portion control of anything.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
No. I used to get pissed off because I would eat, when I was doing my early intermittent fasting, for lunch, I would do a salad, right? And then for dinner, I would just eat a regular meal minus the bread and pasta. And so what I would do is I would be super hungry at noon. And so I would just build the biggest salad I possibly could. And it took me 45 minutes to eat this stupid salad.
Oh my God.
and it's like, so I used to get mad that my lunches were all being killed by eating this big thing. So my portion control, you gave myself a time. I can eat in a period of time that I wanted to eat in, and I would eat all I wanted to eat in that time. And then I would bail because I just didn't want to invest the time in eating.
Well, they also say that eating too much salad is bad for you too. Did you hear that?
I did not.
Oh yeah, they're saying that because and the thought process behind that is you're adding more things to the salad that you probably shouldn't be eating, like your dressings. You're like, if people are eating meats or cold cuts or cheeses or things like that, you're putting more in that salad. The bigger the salad is. So you're supposed to go into smaller proportions of salads.
But again, if you're if the person telling you this is eating a donut while they're telling you this, then I'll take the salad with extra stupid stuff on it over the donut.
And what about soups when you're doing diets?
I got into bone broth. I don't know if you've ever tried it. It's terrible when you first start taking. So basically what they do is they make this broth, but I think they soak bones in it, and the bones expel the marrow. And so you get this, like if you're in a muscle building or a bone building or whatever, you get extra proteins that are a little like the collagen that you get out of it helps the skin. And I had in high school, I wrestled, and my left knee got hyperextended during a wrestling match. Yeah. And it bothered me all the way up. I mean, during a movie, if I was sitting more than 20 minutes, I had to like extend it and put it up on the seat. It was terrible. Yes. And I started doing bone broth, and it like healed itself. And I've not had a problem with it since I started doing it. I totally 100% give bone broth the credit for that.
Bone broth.
Yep.
There's nothing else in it but just the broth of a chicken bone.
Chicken bone and beef bone. Yeah. They make either kind.
Huh. And you don't put carrots and celery and things like that in it. Just the broth. Just the broth.
Yeah. You get high. You get all the salts that because that's one thing when you do this, the hardest thing to get is those electrolytes. Because you're not going to drink Gatorade. Gatorade's just freaking sugar. Right. So finding other stuff that has the salts. One of my friends out in Utah said that iodine, like we cut salt out because everybody's having heart problems. And iodine's really hard to get in anything other than iodized salt. And so there's a lot of people that are heavy metal deficient, when heavy metals used to be the rage of what causing big cell problems. And now we're not getting enough of it because we've cut out all that stuff out of our diet.
So you don't care for Himalayan?
I've had it. Yeah, I've had it, but I'll use just regular iodized salt.
You like it better?
I do, because of the iodine.
Okay. And
olives are a big one where, anytime I can eat it, because that gives you another dose of those sodiums that if you don't have those salts, you can't, cells don't open up, and you don't absorb moisture if you don't have the proper salts. And when you change your diet that doesn't have carbohydrates, it's really difficult to get hydrated, and you spend a majority of your time with, almost hangover headaches because of the hydration.
How many times have you gone out to a restaurant and you've seen somebody order something, and then they bring it to the table and somebody grabs salt and they're and you're like, oh my God, are you going to stop anytime soon with the amount of salt that people put on their dinners? I don't salt anything. I don't care to. I don't
Well, and this is sort of like the stupid part that we were talking about earlier. So how much salt do you need?
Yeah.
How much do you need? And then just try all day long to get exactly what your body is requiring. And so like if you're just throwing whatever at it for the taste, then you're probably going overboard and you're just desensitizing the system. It's so much of it. What's your body do to expel the salt? It makes you sweat and, or whatever your body does to do it.
Now they also say, oh, don't drink coffee. Coffee's bad for you. Debunk that.
Okay, so
here we go, because that's your favorite.
Do you remember the muscle glycogen? Okay, the body has a really hard time with getting the glycogen out of the muscles. So a lot of times what'll happen is you'll get into ketosis, but your body will sputter knowing that it has glycogen in the muscles, but it's having a hard time extracting it. Black coffee helps the body take that muscle glycogen out. So it's really important as if you're transitioning and you don't want to get that keto flu, that black coffee is that big aid to get you out of glucose and whatever. Now there's some oils in coffee. And when we had our coffee experts in the back, if you let the oils go in the coffee, then it tastes better. But the stuff that's going in the coffee is oily, and it's actually, if you're unhealthy, it could do heart damage. The blood having those extra oils in there could do damage. So then you strain your coffee, put it through like a filter that gets the oils out, and then your coffee doesn't taste quite as good. But for the most part, I think the danger in coffee is the additives. If you put a bunch of sugar in it, if you put enough flavorings in it, and you put a bunch of milk in it, it's just a donut, more or less.
I remember the one we were talking about, what do you put in your coffee? And the flavored pumpkin spice. You're like, you ruined it for me right there. But I have to tell you, we had Third Day Coffee here, and he had given us a bag of, the bean. And I actually went home and I ground it up and I started drinking. I'm like, oh, this is not so bad. I've never been one to drink black coffee before, ever. But I've been able to start doing this now. So thanks, Joe.
And that's good stuff too.
It is good stuff. And you don't and I don't want to put down any coffee company, and that's not what my intent is. But when you go and you say you get Folgers out of a container or you get Maxwell House, it's not even the same type of coffee. I mean, some people can probably drink that black, but it's gone through such a different process of flavoring and how do I want to put this? I mean, the process is just so much different than what we do with these and I don't want to say higher end coffees either, because I don't want to put anybody down, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Different types of the way coffee's processed. I guess.
Well, and wines are the same thing. Like when I was a kid, you I didn't know there was even a difference in wines. And now when you get to sample whites and reds and high price tags, low price tags, there's definitely a difference depending on your tastes. So I wouldn't even put down the $9 bottle that you can buy at the convenience store versus the $70 bottle that you could buy at a liquor store. But I haven't, like, even when you guys are drinking your white wines back there, I can't stand white wines, and I don't know what's in it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How could you not like white wine?
So so tell me about it. Like, talk to me like you're a Folgers, or I'm a Folgers drinker, and you've tasted the Third Day coffee deal, and telling me what I'm missing.
I think with the white wine, it has a lighter flavor. There's more fruits to it. It's a sweeter blend, of course. Now there's Chardonnay, and then let's go from your Chardonnays to your Moscato. Okay, I'll just throw Moscato out there. There's such a different taste structure as opposed. A Moscato is super duper sweet. I mean, if you were to drink it, I could just see the face you would make. Explode, yeah. You would explode. Yeah, no doubt. How could you drink sugar water is basically what it is.
All right, that explains why I'm not a fan.
A Chardonnay is more like, okay, so we added lemon to the water. That's kind of like I don't think it tastes as sweet. It doesn't. Like a sweet wine will make your face pucker. Right. Chardonnay is like, ooh, there's nothing sweet about it. So there too, when you're on a diet and you're drinking wine, you've got your sugars. What's the best wine while you're on a diet to drink? because women can't go without wine. We just can't.
Yeah.
Not in this day and age.
I will take once a month and I will make it my wine weekend because I really like wine, but it hurts your ketosis progress because it takes you a day to get back in after you've been out and you don't feel real great. Because again, if you struggled for a couple of weeks to get proper hydration in your body and then you throw a liquid at it that's going to mess up the hydration in your body, you're doing a whole lot of weeks worth of reconstituting to get back in the mode.
Right.
But once a month, I'll do it. And if it's going to be a red, right, and it's going to be something heavy like a Pinot Noir or it's going to be a Cabernet.
Yep.
And when what's nice about it is since your tolerances are low and you get an explosive reaction in insulin when you drink wine, you really can't drink more than one glass. You are lit.
Yes,
you are lit if you smell it, kind of a thing. So like you'll enjoy the sips of it because you don't have to drink a lot of it to get the same kind of reaction as you did.
Okay, now you've seen Trulies. You know what the Truly is? Have you seen Truly or White Claw?
Oh yeah.
Are you familiar with all that?
Yeah.
And I mean, this flies off the shelves. Stores can't keep it in there, and people are like, oh yeah, that doesn't have any carbs in it. It's got a kick to it. Is that even safe to drink during a diet or non-diet? Again, you're watching your carbs, but
your body is so complicated. So when you even stevia, right? I don't halfway trust stevia because you're psychologically now connected to things that taste sweet, and you're giving a chemical that doesn't have an insulin response, but you still got the addiction to the sweetness, right? So you get in a weird compromised state where what you're addicted to, you need to not be addicted to so that you don't have to eat that kind of stuff. I want to be able to take one time I didn't have sugar for a couple months straight, like not a sweet thing for a couple months. And then I ate some kettle corn, which normal people, right, that isn't really sweet.
There's not much sugar.
But to me, it tastes like cotton candy. How low those tolerances got, for the taste. And I love the fact that I was so far away from it. There wasn't anything appealing to sugary food because I was blown. I mean, that didn't even taste good. It was so overwhelming.
But when you're still doing your diets and you're watching your sugar intake and you're watching your wine intake and your alcohol intake, you're still working out though. You still have to put your body into, and people are like, oh, I lost 50 pounds without working out and I did this and I did that. You still need your body to at least work out and go through some type of regimen to keep you fit.
I think we overdo it sometimes. And working out does not mean like doing body damage. Right.
Lifting 500 pounds.
Yeah. You don't need to do that. You need to punish yourself and say, hey, I worked out today by running 19 miles. Well, that probably did you in, right? It probably hurt you more than it helped you. What you need to do is find out where you're at and your deficiencies and just make it a little bit better than it was yesterday. Right. If you feel winded walking upstairs, right. Or, you could do stupid stuff like I do. I don't usually dedicate a whole lot of time to actually working out. But if I can park the other side of the parking lot and walk my ass into the store, I got more exercise that way, and it only cost me a couple seconds. I didn't have to dedicate. But if I'm trying to get super close to the store, but then I'm working out for an hour after work, I mean, I had the chance all day to make it just a little bit harder. Right. And that's where most of us are at, is that, we don't have to go overboard on it. We could just make things a little bit more difficult, get respiration up and take the stairs rather than the elevator, and little things.
Now, on an average, and I believe everybody's body is different, but of course, everybody has either a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or something that will, and their phones, they carry those on them as well, that records the amount of steps that you're taking a day. What is an average that people every day, no matter what, exercise should take at least 10,000 steps, 20,000 steps on an average? What should you gauge it by? And I realize everybody's different, but
it's cool because there's some days where I don't realize I didn't move as many. So it ends up doing a standard. Like on my everyday, I'm about 10,000, about 6 o'clock in the evening, my thing's beeping at me, telling me I hit my mark. And then a Saturday where I feel like I was more engaged, where I did more mental work. And I'm like, I only did 2,000 steps today. I got to get my ass and do some yard work or something to get caught up. And it keeps the momentum going. I mean, those days that you don't move around as much, your body's processes slow down, your metabolism goes, and you just feel like crap. And so rather than feeling like crap on Sunday, I'll go and get my movement back up on the day that I'm lacking and, even things out a little bit.
So you think about 10,000 people should gauge it upon?
Honestly, if you're a 90-year-old guy, it's going to be much less. If you're an overweight person, it's going to be much less. I mean, it's going to based on who you are. And, you know, I'm like a chihuahua, right? So I move 10,000 steps because I've checked the doorknob 19 times since I got here, you know, that kind of a thing.
Right. Okay. And, you know, just recapping everything that we've gone over, because we have hit on so many different subjects. But if you're going to, number one, first and most important, go to the doctor and make sure that this is something your body can handle. I mean, you don't want to go, hey, doc, I'm thinking of going on a diet. What do you think? You know what I mean? But go get checked out. Get your blood pressure checked out. Get your sugar checked out before you even start. If you're finding anything a little bit off, just even a little bit off, maybe it might be a good idea to get yourself into a doctor.
Let me tell you the story, too. My doctor knows that I do ketosis. Now, he deals with a lot of older people that have problems with their weight and with their insulin. So when he compares me towards them and the stuff that can go wrong, right? He wishes that all of his patients would dabble in this because they have a chance of getting a little bit better. He watches them get more and more dependent on pills and tests and stuff like that, because honestly, their job is to keep you alive, right? And when something hits dangerous territory, they get freaked out and throw more medicine at it instead of saying, hey, you know, this is high, go do this natural thing. They're more likely to be able to give you the non-authentic version of it. So I was like 3 months into a really good ketosis cycle, and I was feeling amazing. I was working out. I had all this energy and total mental focus and clarity. And I talked to him, and he was asking me questions about like what I was doing. And we decided to do some blood tests to see where all my cholesterols were at the time, because I knew what I was eating, and I knew if a normal person was doing this, they'd be dead, right? Because the amount of fat that I was taking in my body every day was off the charts, right? And so we got the blood test, and like there wasn't 24 hours after the test results come back, a person that wasn't my doctor, just someone who got my labs in, looked at them, called me in a frantic panic that said I had to get into their office because we had to make some major changes. Because if it was anybody else that wasn't in ketosis, they freaked out of how high my levels were. And I said, no, calm down. I was totally expecting where I was going to be at. And you know, the body stays in a state of inflammation so much. I mean, I don't know if you know what that means, but if you're unhealthy and cells stay inflamed, that's when all of the bad stuff happens.
And pains and you're hurting. And
when you don't have glucose, your body ends up not being in an inflamed state. You should be in an inflamed state reserved when there's injury, because it rushes blood there and brings extra stuff. Well, think when your heart's always in a state of inflammation. LDL cholesterol really matters when your body's in an inflamed state. When you're not, it can handle a lot of those extra cholesterols and the stuff so you don't get caused blockage because it's smaller. You know, the passageways are smaller.
So your doctor flipped out, or
yeah, well, someone who wasn't the doctor, someone just in the office did not like those results.
If there's somebody who has tried the diets, tried the fads, tried the keto, tried everything, and they're still finding they're not moving up or down on the scale, then you really need to get into the doctor to find out if it's hormonal or if it's thyroid or if it's something else that, and again, then you're going to have to go back on to some type of medication. The gist of it is try to get off the meds. Yeah. Try to go back to being healthy.
This is some real talk, okay? If you're gonna do the meds and you're gonna question and you're not ready to do it, right? Because there's gonna be 9,000 other excuses, right? You almost have to hit a wall of some kind in order to be ready to do this.
Right.
Now, my wall was I was getting sick regularly. I go out in the field. I deal with 20 people per day. I'm touching mice and keyboards, and I was getting sick all the time. Well, that was my wall. I was sick of it. I didn't want to be sick anymore, so I decided to go learn about my immune system and thought, I don't want to say, here's everything I'm doing wrong, and I'm just going to solve the things that stop my wall from happening. Well, if it's weight, then you got to wait till you have a heart attack, or you got to wait till you can't walk up the stairs, or you feel terrible every day, whatever that wall is. Go create that wall, and until you've
exhausted.
Exactly.
You've exhausted every aspect.
Yeah, because if you get trapped in that, I want to do this thing, but can't answer me, like, why are you doing this? You're going to come up with a million excuses.
Exactly. And I think that's what we all do. Our lives do not let us calm down. Like back in the days, the 1960s, 1970s, you would come home, you did your job, you came home, You had dinner on the table, and then the rest of the night you went and you watched TV. But we had smaller portions. I don't think we had half of the insecticides and all kinds of stuff that we were putting on our and the stuff that the animals are eating nowadays with the different help me out here, they're pumping them up, hormones, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, they didn't have all that then,
right?
We have that now. So our body has to put up, like you said, an immune system or defense, and if your defense system or immune system isn't breaking what that's doing, then you're in a world of hurt and you're in a world of trouble, and you really need to take a step back and think, okay, what am I doing wrong? What am I, am I proportions? Am I not working out? Am I medically, is there something wrong? Do I need to get blood work done?
And probably all of that's true.
Yes.
And honestly, what we need to do is we need to have like a little 14-year-old that's kind of sarcastic and not afraid to tell you truthful things, because we can't outmaneuver the little 14-year-old. They can walk around and tell you things like you're going to say something, oh, I have a headache, right? Let me take some Tylenol. And the little cocky 14-year-old is going to say, why? Or do you have a headache because there's a lack of Tylenol in your body? And you're like, right, I have a headache for a different reason. Instead of just going to your thing that makes the symptom go away, try to figure out why you have a headache that day and figure it out in a different way. But as long as we lie to ourselves and allow us to, hey, I feel like shit, let me go take the Tylenol, get rid of the problem. And then I'll sit around thinking, what's my problems? Oh, I don't have a headache. Things must be good.
And I think too, now in this day and age, we've got so many stressors. So people reach out to food as comfort, or reach out to alcohol as something that is, puts you in a different state of mind and, makes it all better for that day, instead of going out. And who doesn't go outside their house and think, oh, it's a nice day outside, let's go for a walk, let's do this, let's do that, instead of sitting at home feeling sorry for yourself and sitting on the couch and eating potato chips watching TV. If you got outside.
Worst outlet.
Exactly.
Worst outlet. So I probably, in comparison, deal with more stresses than the average person.
I think so.
And I don't go home and eat chips, and I don't watch TV, and I don't drink to get rid of my stress. I love chaos because it's the momentum that helps me get stuff done, right? And so what's the difference between my stresses and yours? And here's the big difference. If you don't have a surplus of the things that you need, right? So let's just say you get your paycheck and then you spend everything down and you go into debt, right?
Right.
If one thing happens to you, right, it throws everything off and becomes a bad thing. If you have savings and you didn't spend all of it, and don't have a bunch of debt, and that same stress happens to you, that same friction happens to you, you can kind of absorb it into your life without it ruining shit. So I think a lot of us are spending our health down to a breaking point, and then little stuff that wouldn't affect me because I have a bunch of health to spare, affects you because you're so far overspent in one of those directions. And that was kind of profound. So you might want to rewind that and listen to that again.
That was kind of profound. See, you miss a minute, you miss a lot.
That's right.
That was kind of profound. Yes, rewind that, play that back, and put that on a stick-em notepad
on
your mirror in the morning. Yeah, but no, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Things that probably wouldn't affect you as much if you weren't right at that level, right at that, ready to just explode. No, I agree. Yeah, I like it. I like that. That's a good, profound statement by Joe. What would Joe do? Well, Joe, again, I think everybody has learned. We've debunked some things, good, bad, indifferent, and we always learn every time that you're on the show something new and profound.
It's fun.
It's time to rewind that again. But again, thank you. Again, if you miss a minute, you miss a lot. We appreciate you joining the show, and can't wait to see you next Thursday. I'm Justine Thomas for Let's Talk. Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about us. Thank you.